Thank you, Mr. Kabiri, for bringing this very important perspective from a landlocked, least developed country, Afghanistan, our brother in South Asia, and how a landlocked country can serve as a land bridge connecting South Asia and Central Asia if there is right kind of momentum to exploit those synergies and the your strategic location at the confluence of Central Asia and South Asia. And unfortunately, many of the things which can happen are not happening at the pace, but your, sharing the information and updates on Lapis Lazuli corridor, the air corridors, the Chabar port coming and facilitating movement of goods, and also the energy connectivity initiatives. They are all very important initiatives, and eventually, I think once this full potential of Afghanistan as a land bridge is realized, it will be a very important hub for energy and transport. I have no doubt in my mind. So on that note, let me turn to Mr. Wangdi, the Secretary of the National Environment Commission in Bhutan. But Mr. Wangdi, for all those of us who know him, has been a very important trade negotiator in Bhutan, and he has been very well versed with all different negotiations, or whether it is SAFTA or bilateral trade deals and all. And he has extensive experience of the region, and practically everybody in the room knows him from his time in dealing with trade and transport connectivity related issues. So, Mr. Wangdi, I would like you to carry forward this discussion from another landlocked country's perspective, that is Bhutan. And Bhutan has also played a very important role in developing a new template for regional cooperation in hydroelectricity. And in Delhi, we should all be thanking Bhutan, because there is a grid which evacuates power from some of your hydropower plants, brings it all the way to Delhi. If otherwise, this city would not be able to cope with the demand that is there for. And so we are very grateful to the Bhutan power coming all the way, lighting our houses and offices. So you have the floor, Mr. Wangdi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for your kind words. Honorable Chair, members on the dais, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to present the energy situation in Bhutan and our aspirations on the energy front. Basically, I'm talking about hydropower. Bhutan has been blessed with a very high hydropower potential. We have about 30,000 megawatts of hydropower potential. And of that, about 23,760 is techno-economic feasible. And since 1974, we've been exploiting with generous assistance from India. When the first, we call it the Friendship Project, a 336 megawatt Chuka hydropower project, was agreed and then constructed. And so we've been trading electricity with India since the completion of that project in 1986. So we've been now, a little prior, when we started our development, we started importing around 1966, 67, and exporting since 1986. So we've been trading for a long time. We have in Bhutan, as of now, in terms of installed capacity, about 1,622 megawatt. This includes some 21, 22 microhydels. And we have about 3,658 megawatt underway. The good part of this is that we export from this 1,622, we export about 73% of that. And the domestic use for, say, domestic household use is only about 5%. And the balance, about 17%, is used for the industries in Bhutan. So we export a large part of that, and that constitutes almost the 6 billion units that we export to India. It's about 1,400 megawatts, which accounts for about 60% of the regional trade in energy in the South Asian region. Accounts for about 1/3 of our exports. We believe that the energy market, especially electricity, is very important, and there are huge potential for growth in this area. The combined, if you look at the regional installed capacity as of now, is about 390 gigawatt. And when you're talking about the trade, it's 2.3 gigawatt. Of that, I said Bhutan exports about 60% of that, and India exports the balance, some 313 to Nepal and some 600 to Bangladesh. So in terms of the ratio to the total installed capacity in the region, the export is less than 0.5%. So this is the situation. And then the region is growing, in fact, in terms of the economic growth is about 7-8%. So the requirement for electricity is going to be huge. And there are various studies done, and these studies show that that India alone will probably need by 2030 1,250 gigawatt, and they will be able to generate only 750 gigawatts. So that leaves a market for about 500 gigawatts. That and there is in the region potential. In fact, the hydro potential itself in the region is about 350 gigawatt, of which even Nepal has some 83 and Pakistan 26 gigawatt. So there are, in fact, a lot of reasons for cooperation here. And one of the best parts of this is that the reliance in the region on a single energy source. India relies mostly on thermal. Bhutan, Nepal is hydro, and Bangladesh is gas. So this, in fact, gives us, in terms of optimization of the sources of energy, huge opportunities. And this we'll have to get our act together, because now the other part is that this region also has huge renewable capacities. India is going for now 175 gigawatt. Likewise, Bhutan, Nepal, we have not yet started. Ours are very slow. But India needs, because of this huge, and I'm told that it's going to be even beyond that, it's going to go to over 200 gigawatts by 2020. So which means that you need, in fact, balancing power. And the balancing power can only come because renewables is intermittent. It's about, hydro is about 5 hours. So you need that, this hydro as a balancing power, and we have it in the region. So I believe that a lot of, in terms of regional cooperation, a lot of work has been done under SAG, under BIMSTEC. We've agreement, we have a IG agreement under SAG. BIMSTEC, we are going to be signing one IG agreement on in terms of the transmission grid. ADB has been working SASEC program, and the World Bank is also getting into it. And the SARI, the US aid SARI, they have done some wonderful work, where right from the policy in terms of the trading license, open access, transmission, and also the exchange market, they have done it all, and it is there, and it is for us as a region to pick it up and get on with it, because there is nothing more important to this region than energy and electricity, which is basically the ingredient and building block of our development, national development. And my sincere hope is that we will, and the individual countries, India, in fact, I'd like to commend India. They have made great progress in the reforms, where they have now, India was broken into regions and isolated. Now the grid the whole grid is connected. And I believe, and they've recently issued the guidelines, which is another indication of moving forward. Although, I mean, as my colleague from Nepal mentioned, that it could be a little restrictive, and we are hopeful that, and for Bhutan's part also, we've been, in fact, having a serious dialogue with India on that, and we have been told that the amendments are going on, and we will be soon told, and we are hopeful that we can take this forward. At this note, I will thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wangdi. I think you have made a very significant statement about the potential of mutually beneficial cooperation in energy in South Asia, keeping in mind the huge demand potential and the complementary mix of hydro, thermal, solar, wind, and all other renewable sources of energy, and hydropower providing a balancing force. And so I think a lot more work needs to be done, and all different initiatives and potentials need to be exploited then. And so this is certainly, energy is certainly a very important, very critical area of regional cooperation, and we need to exploit that potential. Now, I turn to our last panelist for this session, and that is our own colleague Prabir Dey, a professor in RIS, and he has been a transport expert for many years, and I would like to ask Prabir if you could highlight some of the potentials and possibilities of South Asia ASEAN transport, because Anil talked a lot about the western side connectivity from Bangladesh, India, Nepal, all the way to Europe and West Asia's side. But what is happening on the eastern side of India, and how we are getting connected with ASEAN markets or BIMSTEC framework? So maybe that would be complementing what this discussion has been there up to now. But we are running short of time, so I would leave it to your judgment how much time you would need. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, sir. And I'm not going to hold you lunch and my talk, so it will be very brief. And I will be mainly recommending time in kind of some suggestions. Most of the things have been already discussed. And if you look at the previous session, the discussion was also very rich. And there was, at the end, I seen that the chairperson was moving entire discussion of the value chain, where the connectivity, transportation are very important. Now, Mr. Gupta's presentation and chairperson's suggestion after that, I think if you see from 2014, our SAARC summit was stalled. And with that, entire SAARC connectivity track 1 official activities actually slowed down. And then what came out? And came out was actually India's, and previous speaker rightly said, Mr. Wangdi, India has done a fabulous amount of connectivity projects connecting its neighboring countries, and also going into far-reaching places like ASEAN and somewhere in the air connectivity like Afghanistan, or somewhere in there in Indian Ocean. So, and then we see in the BIMSTEC, India ASEAN, and within ASEAN there are several connectivity projects and things. Now, if you think now compared to 2014, what SAARC used to do, no, that template is not going to help you. It has changed. What you have to do now, you have to look at what others are doing. What others means that what ASEAN is doing, what BIMSTEC is doing, they have a set agenda, set projects. Now, I think BIMSTEC, SAARC, and BBIN, these three are, we can, because we are geographically interlinked, and then Sri Lanka, which is a maritime hub, and Sri Lanka, is rightly coming up is in, the center for all the Indian Ocean, Indo-Pacific activities. So something like, I think I suggest, that here the director is here from the BIMSTEC Secretary, and SARC director, Mr. Sarkar, is also sitting here. The BIMSTEC is almost about to complete its master plan of connectivity. ASEAN has already completed. Countries, or the member countries are committed now. They are telling that these are the projects that I'm going to do. And in the ASEAN, they have set up a fund. They're not calling it the ASEAN fund. There are several organizations that are contributing to it. So look at what ASEAN is doing and what BIMSTEC is doing, and then we draw some lessons for the SARC and link SARC with the BIMSTEC and ASEAN. Now, SARC, probably you will be telling, as you have in your previous policy discussion, because you were the first to tell us when about the SARC master plan. I remember very well, If you think for a SARC master plan, then there is a BIMSTEC master plan is coming, ADB is doing, and then ASEAN. So we need to link it up. You just cannot do it on standalone basis. Second point, which I would suggest, there are many, out of which, I see there are overlaps, but there are many low-hanging projects.